All right, we're joined on the line today by Peter Schrager, known as Schrags. You see him a couple of different places probably if you're a Vikings fan. You see him on NFL Network because he's one of the four people on set all the time every day on Good Morning Football, which airs weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Or you see him doing sideline for Fox during the regular season. Peter has done a couple of games or a few games at US Bank Stadium. He joins us now. Hi, Peter. How you doing, man?
What's up, big man? How are you?
I'm good. We're getting through this offseason. The draft is sort of the big event that's on the horizon, but free agency sort of solves the appetite until then. And actually, for Vikings fans, Peter, free agency has been a little more noteworthy maybe than people would have thought. Everyone thought the Vikings are strapped for cap space. They won't be big players. But in the first few days with Anthony Barr re-signing, the Vikings actually were a little splashy in free agency. What did you think?
Wasn't it a cool week for Vikings fans? You think that people are going to be walking out the door? There's a million reports out. It's going to be time to have to say goodbye to Everson Griffin, and they're going to not be able to bring him back because his contract's too much. And then sure enough, in a matter of days, Griffin restructures his contract. Barr decides he has one night of sleep and is like, wait a second, I'm really good in this defense. And they basically bring just about every key piece back from that defense. On the offensive side of the ball, I think you lit it up last year, except for when the moments were needed most in Week 17. But gotta feel good if you're a Vikings fan. And it was almost like they rearranged the deck chairs and found a way to keep everyone happy and on board. And that's got to be it's got to be energizing for Vikings fans. It's pretty cool.
When you look at our division, Peter, the NFC North, what are you seeing? I mean, some teams in the NFC North have been making some moves in the headlines quite a bit, including the Vikings. What do you make of this division in 2019?
I'm intrigued by Detroit. I know that seems like the fourth team in the division right now, but I'm intrigued by Detroit because it was the second year of Patricia. He kind of cleared out guys that weren't all on board, and he brought in guys that are his guys, like Trey Flowers. I know the guys in Detroit. They think Trey Flowers hung the stars in the moon. I mean, that's how they feel about him. And they paid him $18 million a year, which is a huge number for a guy that not a lot of fans know, and Patriots fans weren't exactly losing sleep over. So that was an interesting one. And then Amendola is an interesting one for the money that he got. So they're trying to build Patriots North up there, and I think they had a kind of a mulligan on the first year of Patricia. He was finding himself. So that one's interesting. Green Bay is a new coach. I mean, forget all the players they added and lost. I mean, not to have Clay Matthews on the field is going to be very bizarre for everyone in the NFC North. But in Matt LaFleur, you bring this young offensive coach that maybe challenges Aaron Rodgers and maybe makes Aaron Rodgers even better, or maybe clashes with Aaron Rodgers. So that's going to be interesting. And then Chicago, to lose guys like Bryce Callahan and Adrian Amos in the back end, I think those are major losses. And I'm not sure Clinton-Dix and Buster Screen are as good as those two. So I think the other three teams are all very interesting. I don't think there was any of them that made some home run play this offseason that you're like, oh, wait, here they come. We're really screwed as Vikings because, wow, we can't compete with that team.
Yeah, going to be a fun division to watch. Finally, Peter, owners' meetings are coming up. Always a fun time of year. There's usually a couple of big stories that emerge from owners' meetings this time of year, whether it's rule changes or changes to instant replay or what have you. Are you going? And whether you're going or not, what do you expect to hear coming out of Phoenix, Arizona next week?
It's actually one of my favorite weeks of the calendar year. I went the last several years, and I always say the Combine is the most action, the most juice, and this year I think it proved it with Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham being traded shortly thereafter. Owners' meetings are where a lot of gossip gets started, and I will be there, and our show is going to be there, and I'll be on, get this, Bobby, I'll be there from 4 to 7 a.m. Eastern, which is 5 to 8 a.m. Eastern your time, every single day at owners' meetings. So it's an early wake-up, earlier than usual. And I think there's some really interesting things with the rules, like the Sean Payton stuff and how they're going to deal with instant replay and flags, all that stuff's fine. I still think there's a bunch of players in the NFL who could be moved. Like I look at DeMarcus Lawrence, for example, in Dallas, a premier pass rusher who they are putting the franchise tag again. He doesn't want to be on the franchise tag. How many teams would love a premier pass rusher? Does he get moved during this next couple of days? You look at some of the unhappy players that are under contracts for long term that want to get out. Do they get moved? That is the time you get to see it. And I'm also fascinated to see some of the interactions between some of the new coaches. Like that NFC West now is not only Sean McVay and Pete Carroll, but you add Cliff Kingsbury and obviously Kyle Shanahan's in there. The NFC North, how does Matt LaFleur fit in with a Mike Zimmer and a Matt Nagy, who's the reigning coach of the year, and a Matt Patricia, who's a bit of an outlier? Very interested to see how all these coaches interact, because what people don't realize at the owners' meetings, sure, you've got some of these committee meetings and all this. It's a lot of downtime. So you're seeing all the coaches interact. You're seeing all the coaches' families interact, and it's nice to kind of see who is working with who and where are there kind of divisions going on where maybe this group isn't going to sit near that group. Very interested to see how all these guys do. And, of course, I believe Tuesday morning all the coaches speak. And last year I remember asking Mike Zimmer, is it Super Bowl or bust? And he looked at me like I was I had three eyes. He was not happy with the question. But I think the question there is there again with this Kirk Cousins contract in year 2, and Zimmer kind of laid it out at the combine saying year 2 of free agency is when these guys usually click. All right, well, let's see. I still believe that the Vikings are Super Bowl contenders, and this year might really matter. I mean, they should be Super Bowl contenders once again, despite the fact they missed the playoffs last year.
Hey, Peter, you're not the only one who gets sideways looks from Zimmer every now and then. It happens to the best of us, okay?
He looked through me. I mean, it was laser eyes.
Yeah, I know. All right, those are the thoughts and opinions of Peter Schrager. You can find him on Twitter at pschrags, PSCHRAGS, and of course you can catch him on Good Morning Football.
Hey, I said one thing. I want to ask you one more thing. I said one thing last week on air, and I've gotten killed for it.
What is it?
Odell Beckham and Jarvis. I said Thielen and Diggs were the best wide receiver duo in the NFL.
You did.
I think I spoke in another language.
You know, you did, and you talked about their production. You talked about we've seen it already from them, and it's not fantasy football. It's what helps you win games, right? That was sort of your talking points on it.
Everyone, I mean, Burleson on our show comes out and says Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry are the best wide receiver duo in the league. Let's see that first game when Baker Mayfield's 3 for 8 and the first 3 passes went to Antonio Callaway. Let's see how those two guys handle it. All I know is that Thielen and Diggs have done it year after year. 2 years in a row now with 2 different quarterbacks, and I feel like year 3 and year 2 with Kirk Cousins only going to lead to better things. Those guys love each other. I just feel like everyone wants to look for the next best thing. How about 1,000 yards and 100 catches each? That's pretty good to me.
While the quarterback is facing pressure and getting sacked 40 times, and I think it stands to reason that part of it will get better in 2019, and maybe the production will rise, and so will the win total. Wouldn't that be fun?
We'll see. I mean, 6-10 is unacceptable. Let's see what happens next year.
Yeah, that's right. We will see what happens, and we will see you in Phoenix at the owners' meetings. We're looking forward to it, and the folks can keep watching Good Morning Football. Follow Peter on Twitter to hear more of his thoughts and opinions. Thanks for your time, Peter. We know you're busy, and you guys do a great job at Good Morning Football. I know a lot of people watch it, and we'll keep watching it, and we'll see you at owners' meetings next week. Okay?
Appreciate you, my friend. This was fun.
It was fun. See you later.